right, guys. So in our last video, we talked about the Codex Mendoza and what evidence we could gather from there to show how Conquest helped bring people to the city of Tenochtitlan, trying to answer our question. We're going to look at a couple more sources, and we're going to put together some kind of final ideas about Conquest. So just a reminder, I think I put it in the glossary, so let's go back up and see. Okay, perfect. So Conquest is taking over people using military power. So it's taking the power of your military and going around and conquering your neighbors and making them do what you want them to do. In some cases, like for the Romans, it was forcing them to join their empire. Whereas for the Aztecs, it's going to be a little bit different because the Aztecs are going to let them do their thing once they've been conquered, but they're going to have to pay tribute. So tribute being what making them pay for leaving them alone. Kind of like a bully on the playground who says, give me $5 and I won't beat you up. That's sort of the idea that we have here with paying tribute and the Aztecs. Okay, so keeping those two things in mind, and you've got your definitions right here in case you need them. Okay, let's roll on down and let's look at our evidence. So we have three sources that we're looking at here. We have the Codex Mendoza. We have an article called Unearthing the Secrets of the Aztecs. And we have a section from your textbook, Impact World History. For both of these two sources, C2 and C3, you are going to be able to quote them just like you normally would when we're collecting evidence. So you'd be able to do the quote. But remember, for our Codex Mendoza, you can't quote from here. But we wrote our sentence right here that we could use as evidence. So I'm not going to make you rewrite it, but imagine that your sentence is what you wrote right here. So that you have that sentence from this green box sitting in this green box. And to dig then a little bit deeper into our evidence, you're going to write a sentence that explains it. So you want to, in your sentence right here, you want to give new information, historical information, or you want to explain something from your sentence or from your quote when we get down a little bit lower. So I gave you two sentence starters, kind of based on what I thought you would be writing for your sentence, that these two sentence starters would kind of guide you to explaining it. You are only writing one sentence. So you have choice between two, but you're just writing one. Okay, so your two sentences you're going to write, your two sentences you're going to choose from are, when the Aztecs conquered new territories, they would, kind of explaining that system of conquering and tributes and what they collected. And then your other option is, from their conquered territories, the Aztecs were able to, what were they able to get from their conquered territories? So using what you wrote in this sentence right here in this green box, you're going to take a minute and you are going to write a sentence, one of these two sentences, kind of explaining that a little bit further. So I'm going to pause it right here for you, and I want you to write that sentence. Okay, so that is our only primary source that we're looking at for this. But we have two secondary sources that we're going to look at as well, because we're collecting all of this evidence, this information. So we have an article. It was written by an archaeologist, and he was describing what he saw as he dug up the city of Tenochtitlan, and kind of giving some historical background to it. So his quote is, so this is from the article, Unearthing the Secrets of the Aztecs. And the chunk from that article I want you to look at is going to be this part right here. The Aztecs began a large expansion across what is now Mexico and Mesoamerica through wars. The Aztecs expanded their empire through military conquest and sustained it through tributes imposed on the conquered regions. Every 80 days, the new subjects of the Aztecs had to pay tributes to Tenochtitlan. So they brought them over to the city. Okay, and again, we're going to explain what that kind of chunk is talking about. So you've got 3 sentence starters, which are something that you can explain from this piece of text. The Aztec Empire expanded to. How big did it get? Tributes. The tributes people paid when they were conquered were. What does that mean? And Aztec warriors were able to. So I want you to choose one of those 3 sentence starters, and you're going to explain what you just read in your source. You're going to explain it right here. So take a minute, write that sentence, just one sentence using one of those sentence starters. Okay, go for it. Okay, so now we've got our final source here, talking about conquest, talking about taking over using military. And this one is coming from Impact World History. This is your textbook. And your chunk that I pulled for you from there is by 1500, Aztec armies had conquered much of what is today Mexico. The new empire was a collection of partially independent territories governed by local leaders. The Aztec ruler supported the leaders, so supported the people who were already there in power. The Aztec ruler supported the leaders in return for tribute, goods or money paid by conquered peoples to their conquerors. Okay, so kind of the same like repeated information. Hopefully at this point you're like, I get it, conquered, tributes, done. But you're going to write a sentence. This time you have 2 sentence starters you can choose from. And you're going to write a sentence to explain something in that section of text. So conquest allowed the Aztecs to control, or through conquest, the Aztecs had access to. So decide which of those 2 you want to write. Take a minute. We're going to pause right here, and you're going to write that sentence down. Okay. So now I want you to start thinking about what of those 3 sources do you think provides the best evidence for what made people travel to Tenochtitlan? Look at your 3 sources. Look at your 3 sentences you wrote. You want to pick one that you understand, that makes sense, and that you feel like your sentence is pretty strong. Once you pick that sentence, I want you to circle the title of that source. So I want you to circle this box over here. If I were choosing this one right here, I would circle it like that. Okay, so take a minute. I want you to decide which one you want to use. Okay, so once you've made that decision, now we're going to come down here and you're going to find your quote, or you're going to write your evidence sentence. So if you chose to use the Codex Mendoza as your evidence, I love that. What you're going to write is exactly what you have written in this box right here. Don't just ignore the sentence starter. Don't use it. If you're using the Codex Mendoza, just copy the sentence down exactly as it is. In fact, I would cross out my sentence starter if I was doing the Codex Mendoza. So later I would remember I don't want that. Where I do want to use this sentence starter is if I'm choosing one of these two sources. So if you're using one of those 2 sources, sorry, my brain had to catch up. I want you to find which sentence in here do you think does the best job providing evidence? And you are going to underline that sentence. So which sentence from whichever source you choose provides the best evidence, underline it, and then you're going to fill in the sentence right here. So I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to show you an example of what I mean. Okay, so you can see I put the title of the source. So I said in the source, Impact World History, the author states. And I put a sentence word for word in quotation marks of what the author is saying. There's one more piece to this that you're going to use to cite your source, is you're going to say which source it came from. So, hold on, listening to me? There we go. I'm going to put a parentheses, and I'm going to put which source I got it from. So C3, C2, C1. In this case, it is C1, parentheses, and then your period goes on the outside. So now I've said which source I got that from. Okay, so sentence done. Check. Now you've already done this part. You have already written your second sentence. So you're going to take from whichever source you picked, you're going to take what you wrote here in this purple box, and you're going to copy it down here in this purple box. We're color coding, right? Our quote, our evidence comes from this box, so we're going in the green. Our first reasoning sentence is coming from this box, and we're going in the purple. Okay, so pause, take a minute, fill in your sentence, and I will fill in mine. Okay, let's pause for a sec. Okay, so now we've got our reasoning sentence in there. And remember, your reasoning sentence, you're just copying from right here, but this is all in your own words. This isn't quoting the text at all. It's explaining the text. Okay, and now is our first new sentence for this bottom piece. And that is our reasoning number 2. What is going to make people want to come to the city of Tenochtitlan? And there's a couple of ways you can think about it. For these sources in particular, maybe you want to write about how people would have to travel to Tenochtitlan to pay their tribute. They were going to take it from their home, wherever that might be, and they have to bring those goods to Tenochtitlan to pay their tribute. That would be one reason that it brings it in. The other thing is, and this is probably what I would use based on what I wrote as my purple sentence, but they've got then in Tenochtitlan all of these goods from different parts of Mesoamerica that are brought into the city and available at the markets. So this is going to make it so there is a lot of different kinds of products from all around Mesoamerica that you wouldn't be able to get unless the conquest had people bringing their goods to Tenochtitlan. So you've got kind of 2 ways you can do this. So take a minute, think about it, and I want you to finish that sentence. Okay, so here is what I put as my sentence. Now, I know some of you are tempted to just copy down what I have here. And I'm going to really, really encourage you not to, because you're actually going to be using these sentences in your essay. And if you use mine, that's not going to get you very many points. So I know that you're tempted to be like, oh, yes, score. Miss Myers did it for me. But I want you to do this on your own, in your own words, so that you can get all the points that you can. I want to give you the highest score I can on your essay. So make sure that these are in your own words, not in my words. And I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. All right. Bye, guys.